Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I'm your host, Michael Voss. Dragon of the Southern Tier, I'm happy to be here with you today. This is April 18th of 2022, a Monday, and I wanted to talk to you about something, interesting for a lot of people, a big deal. College debt. The debt of all the students in the United States. Should we pay that off? Should that be forgiven? Is that the right thing to do? It's a big question. A lot of people are very concerned about that. But we do want to say that if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you and we thank you for joining us. And we want you to know that we do long-form political commentary. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we do a live stream with you. We go out on all the internet that the internet overlords will allow to reach you, to be able to speak with you in your chats, your tweets, and your phone calls, to hear what you have to say about the issues that affect us all. And that's not restricted to the United States. It's anywhere in the world. We want to hear your voice because we believe in the First Amendment. We believe in your right to free speech. Even if your government doesn't agree, even if the internet overlords don't agree, on this channel, we want to hear your voice every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. And we hope we'll see you this Sunday. Let's talk about student debt. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a major issue. It's a campaign issue in 2022. And it's a very big issue for the Democrats, especially the Progressive Caucus, the left wing of the Democratic Party. They are very interested in this because it's a winning issue with young Americans who have debt, young Americans who would love to no longer have debt. And what brings me to that, of course, is seeing this tweet earlier today from Representative Pramalia Jayapala. And I know I got her name wrong, but the representative for Washington out of the 7th District, a very liberal region, and she says, student debt cancellation is racial justice. Student debt cancellation is gender justice. Student debt cancellation is economic justice. Is any of that true? Is any of that more than just the hope to get young voters out and to vote progressive? Is there anything behind that? And is that actually the best thing that we can have students do? In fact, is college the very best thing that students can do? I would beg to say not quite. But more than just looking at my opinion about this, we decided we wanted to look into this a little bit. We wanted to get an idea because we were really motivated recently by the University of North Carolina at Greensboro and their candidate, their representative, Quentin Merritt. Now, you may have seen our video on this last week, April 13th, where we were talking about his encounter with Ben Shapiro, a malicious incident where he targeted Ben Shapiro and attacked him, something that he was taught by his professors at the University of North Carolina, and likely many of those who have similar political beliefs, progressive ideology that he was speaking about in his own video, which we critiqued. By the way, just because of Quentin Merritt, I want to say that Virginia Cavaliers, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys win when you play the North Carolina Tar Heels. That's going to be a game on November 5th of 2022. And I will watch that game and I will cheer on the Cavaliers of Virginia just because of Quentin Merritt. I want to see North Carolina lose. I know we don't normally talk about sports on this channel, but I was motivated. Quentin, you actually motivated me to care about college football, and I'm hoping your team loses. That being said, we're looking at student debt. How big is it? How many people does this actually affect? Well, actually, we know. See, when we take a look at the numbers, we can see that while from 1960 to 2020, we've seen an increase of 28%. That's a huge amount. Over a quarter of the American populace have now gone to college and have gotten some kind of degree, whether it be a bachelor's or some other form. That's a lot. 35% of Americans, in fact, 37.5% of people in America have gotten a degree. Mind you, 90% of people have gotten their high school degree, and we've seen a massive increase in that since 1960 as well. In fact, more than double. So it's significant in the number of Americans who have college degrees today. And we wonder, well, what kind of degrees do American students and those who've gotten degrees, what do they have? What are the areas that people are going into? Well, they're going into business like MBAs, business management. We're seeing healthcare professions like nurses, doctors, and others. Social sciences. Social sciences? What are the social sciences degrees? We're talking about gender studies. We're talking about the critical race theory. And history. Well, that doesn't seem like a very interesting field. There's not a whole lot of jobs there. Well, I suppose teachers. That's about it. Maybe librarians. What else is there? Well, we see a lot of people get engineering. It's the fourth most sought after degree. Biology and biomedical sciences, that would be science and doctors again. Psychology. Computers and information sciences. Well, remember, Obama said, go out and learn how to code. And it seems a lot of people have done that. It's one of the top 10 degrees that people are going after. Visual and performing arts. 92,000 people want to be an actor or a singer, some form of entertainer. Not a whole lot of people though, 92,000. There's 350 million people in the United States at this time. So there's not a whole lot of jobs there. And then we see journalism. 91,000 people want to be a journalist. I don't know why. There aren't that many jobs. We see newspapers and even cable news are shrinking the number of people that they're employing. So that's a lot of people who won't get a job. That's guaranteed. And then, of course, education, which would be teachers, homeland security, law enforcement, firefighting, which is something we absolutely, positively need. But how many of these jobs actually lead, how many of these professions actually lead to a job? It's a good question. And so we wanted to take a look at that. I mean, what is the unemployment rate for people who just get out of college? They have no experience. They haven't actually held a job. They're leaving college and they're looking to get $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in their first job. That's their goal. They have debt and they want to pay that debt off as soon as possible. That's the student loans. And if possible, they want to have that forgiven. But what do we see? Well, historically, roughly about 4% of everybody, when they leave college, they're unemployed. Even with a degree, they just can't get a job. Possibly because they have no experience and there's no reason to hire them versus someone who does have experience. And more recently, we've seen that, well, coming out of college in recent years really hasn't been any guarantee of being able to get a job either. It's 4.8% as of December 21st, the last date of records that we have. That's higher than the unemployment rate. So you're not guaranteed to have a job walking out of college with a degree in hand saying, I deserve to get paid. And we see that there's a lot of people who are underemployed as well. Now, what is underemployment? Let's make sure we all understand the terms. We know what unemployment is. You don't have a job. But what is underemployment? Underemployment is the fact that you have a job, but it has nothing to do with the degree that you may have gotten. It has nothing to do with the skills that you may have gained. You're taking a job because you need a job. You need to pay your bills, whether it's a student loan or rent or anything else, cars, whatever it may be. No, underemployment means that theoretically, you're better than the job that you have. You have more skills, more education than is needed to do the job that you actually have. That's important. And you say, well, Mike, why is that important? Because I wanted to take a look at the college majors with the highest and lowest unemployment rates. I think it's a pretty important thing. When you get out of college, when these students who are asking us to pay off their debt, we have to ask, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to benefit our economy? It's a question that not a lot of people ask because it's not free. If we pay off the student loan debt, if we forgive the student loan debt, as we hear from the Democratic Socialists and the Progressives across the country, including Representative Jayapal and individuals like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Cory Bush, and everyone who's trying to get the progressive vote, when they're saying, we're just going to pay that off, that's just going to disappear. It's not. It's going to be part of the national debt. That means that every other person in America, 160 million people who go to work every single day, we're the ones who are going to pay for it. What are they going to do? How are they going to benefit our society? This was put together by Hey Tudor in 2019 at the best part of the economy, when the economy was firing on all cylinders, when we had the lowest unemployment rate in decades, when we had more people working than we have today by about 7 million. It was a good economy. It was a strong economy. What did we see happening with people with degrees? Well, for the highest unemployment rates, these are the jobs that people with degrees could not get jobs. Let's see. Mass media, 7.8%. Remember, this is in 2019, when the unemployment rate was 3.5%. More than double the unemployment rate were for students who went into mass media. And by the way, only 18% of them had a degree. Only 18% of the people working in mass media, journalism, broadcast news, only 18% of them actually had a degree. The other 80% don't have degrees. They just have skill. They just worked for it. And that's not a really good trade-off. Underemployment, that's 55%. That's ridiculous. Well, let's see. Liberal arts. Well, everyone has a liberal arts degree. It's one of the biggest degrees that you could possibly get leaving college. It covers almost everything. In fact, that's the whole point of a liberal arts degree, is that you are supposedly a jack of all trades. Okay. And for jack of all trades, liberal arts, 6.7% unemployment. Again, almost double the unemployment rate in 2019. That's huge. And 58% of the people who are working with a liberal arts degree, well, they're working in a job that doesn't need that degree. Anthropology, 59% underemployment, 6.6% unemployment. Half the people they work with don't have the degrees, don't need them. Philosophy. Now, this is a classic one, and I took philosophy in college myself. Half the people there are working in a job that doesn't require the degree that they actually got, because you really can't be a philosopher. But philosophy by itself doesn't really make you very employable. And that's why the unemployment rate is 6.2% at the time in 2019, when the economy was firing on all cylinders 1,000%. What are the majors with the lowest unemployment rates? The people who get a degree and actually can use it for the job that they want. Well, what kind of jobs are we talking about there? You could be a priest. There's a job. You can be a religious leader. Only 1% unemployment. That's lower than the 3.5% in 2019. Then again, I don't know that the world really needs a lot of priests or rabbis or imams. How about education? Another great field, 1.7%, which is great. This is like a teacher. You went for early childhood education. You went to be a teacher in elementary schools, and that is essential, and I'm happy for that. General education. Again, you're a general teacher. You're a professor at a college. Let's see, 1.7% unemployment. 22% of them are underemployed, not using the skills that they have degrees for. And there isn't a huge demand. I mean, between early childhood education and general education, teachers overwhelmingly, it's a very limited field. And then, of course, you could be a lawyer. Public policy and law. Well, to no one's joy and happiness, the United States has plenty of lawyers. If you want to go out and sue somebody, there is definitely a lawyer available out there to make sure you can. Degrees aren't necessary for a lot of jobs, but yet the people who do have the degrees, they want us to pay off their bills. They want us to pay their debt. Even though most of the jobs they're going into don't really need them and don't really have a high demand. So where are people working? Where are the jobs that Americans are going to day in and day out? The number one job that most Americans have, the number one job that people go to every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, retail. Retail sales. Got to surprise a few people. And guess what? You don't need any kind of education for that. Home health and personal care aides. Healthcare, an important industry. We need that. Well, you don't need a college degree to be home health or a personal care aide. And 3.4 million people are doing that. The second most common job in America today. This is as of 2020. Next job, number 3, fast food. That's right, fast food workers. The fry guy at McDonald's. Third most jobs in America in 2020. How about being a cashier? The fourth most common job in America. 3.3 million people. And then in the top 5, number 5 itself, registered nurses. 3 million registered nurses. A great job, pays well, and yes, it actually needs a degree. Just a bachelor's degree, and you can get other degrees, but you don't need more than a bachelor's degree. It's the first job on this list that actually has a requirement to go to college. And it's in a field that we need the help in. We need healthcare workers. But not everyone wants to be a nurse. Not everyone wants to work in a hospital or deal with sick people. Of all of these positions, the top 13 positions in America, the most common jobs that we see, that's about 36, a little bit more than 36 million jobs. It's roughly somewhere around 22% of all the jobs in America. Almost 1 in 4 jobs are filled by these 13 positions. 1 in 4. No degree is needed for all but 2 of them. Because without those 13 jobs, America doesn't work. America stops. It comes to a complete standstill. In fact, it's not just America. You go around the world, and those jobs are the base of every single economy, every single country in the world. A lot of people are going to say, well, Mike, no, I'm going to college because I want to make money. I want to make a lot of money. That's why I'm going to have a lot of debt. Okay, but most of the jobs we're talking about, you're not going to get them. So what are the top jobs? How likely are you to get that top position? Let's take a look. Well, you can be, it's basically a doctor, 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 a psychiatrist, a doctor, a doctor. Out of the top 10 best paying jobs in America, you have to be a doctor or a psychiatrist. Mind you, we do need doctors, and that's a good thing. But there aren't that many doctors, and everyone can't be a doctor. Separate of doctors, which we do need. Okay, what other jobs are there? Well, you can be a CEO. That's the 11th most best paying job in America. Yeah, that's not very common. That's a hard thing to do. And usually It takes a lot of years and experience to be able to get up the ranks to be a CEO, unless you start your own business, which means you're assuming business risk, which is even harder. Well, what about the 12th most common? That's a nurse. And then we're back to a dentist, pediatricians. Children need doctors. America needs more doctors and healthcare workers. Not telling people not to do it, but not everyone's going to do it. Airline pilots don't need more than a bachelor's degree to fly a plane. These are the top 20 jobs, and you can look down the list. The best jobs take decades to be able to be qualified to do them. You're 22, 23, you're not making the top dollars in America. Just not going to happen. But a lot of people have degrees that are completely useless, that they will not get employed in, that are not going to give them jobs the moment they get out of college. They're going to get out of college and they're going to start over again at the bottom. And we haven't even gotten to carpenters or plumbers, electricians, machinists, industries that are absolutely necessary for America to exist, for any country to exist, and a series of jobs that we have a dearth of. In fact, some of the top jobs and the average jobs we're talking at least $50,000 or more. This is the target that people go to school. You get out and people with a bachelor's degree want to get paid $40,000 or more for their first job. Well, there are 80 jobs in the United States, according to the U.S. Career Institute. 80 jobs. They don't require a degree. You can get out of high school and you start working in some of these jobs. This is a huge list, and it goes on and on and on. And there are tons of them. You want to work in green energy? Wind turbine specialist. You can work in green energy. You don't need a college degree to do it. And if there are no wind turbine technicians, guess what? There's no green energy from wind. Not one of them needs us to repay anyone's loan. These are essential jobs, jobs that make America available. It turns us on. It keeps us going. These are the lifeblood of America, and they just don't need a degree. So again, I come back to this question that was raised by the progressives, by Representative Jayapal. She says, we have to get rid of student debt. Why? So why do we have to do it? Because of racial justice? Well, what job did I mention that requires someone to be a specific race? What job did I mention that requires someone to have a specific gender? Every single one of the jobs that are required for America to continue to exist, well, anyone of any sex, anyone of any race, of any religious background, anyone can do these jobs. So it's not about racial justice. There is no job in America that is, well, black people do this job, white people do that job, men do this job, women do that job. Really? In 2022? No, those jobs, there are no separations like that. They don't exist. So it's not about justice. So why are we required to pay off this debt? Because it sounds good. Because people like Quentin Merritt think it's important. Just like he thinks it's important to call himself a physicist and a mathematician. But Quentin, tomorrow, cannot get a job as a mathematician or a physicist because, first of all, he's a student. Second of all, those positions require even greater degrees than he's going to get with his bachelor's degree, and they require more experience than he has. But we still are supposed to pay off his debt because Quentin's somehow racially prevented from being any of the top positions or any of the positions of a job in America. That's not true. It's not just that I have to pay for what someone else is doing or wants to do. If your neighbor wants to buy a brand new car, you're not required to pay for that. If someone wants to build a house in your region, in your area, you're not required to pay for it. If someone wants to send their kid to a private school, you're not required to pay for it. If someone wants a new set of clothes or a new pair of sneakers. You're not required to pay for it. What they want to do, whether or not it incurs debt, has nothing to do with what you do or how you live your life. You're not required to help them. You're not required to pay their bills, just as no one's required to pay your bills. Well, everyone has a business degree. That doesn't mean you're good at business or that the business you get into will be successful. And everyone can't be a manager. Some people have to work a job. Some people are going to be the CEO. Just because you have a business degree doesn't mean that you're going to work in business or that you're good at it or that you're qualified for it. Social sciences. Well, unless you're going to be a teacher, absolutely nothing necessary. That job doesn't prepare you for anything. You can be the fry guy with a social sciences degree. Most of the jobs that America needs the most do not require social services. Does not require you to be a gender studies major. It's just not important. And then we hear them say, but we have to do it because of, again, race and ethnicity. It's gender equality. It's racial equality. Well, let's take a look at that just for a second. This is coming from the Education Data Initiative Student Loan Debt Statistics from April 10th of 2022. So it's right up to date. Well, black students are most likely to use federal loans. 49.4% of them are borrowing to get into college. But white students owe 54% of the national student loan debt. If we wipe out the student loan debt, then we're actually wiping out the student loan debt of white students more than anyone else. Is that in line with the racial equality she's speaking of? Because I don't think that's what she means. I think she wants it to be racially segregated, which would make her a racist. If you think it's, no, we need to focus on people of black and brown skins, people who are not white, well, then you're talking racism. That's a preference based on someone's racial, ethnic origins. That is racism. How about gender? Because that was second on the list, right? Second on the list. Gender justice. Let's check that out. Unless we're talking about men and women equally, because men and women go to college, men and women take on debt. Unless we're talking about men and women, well, then we're talking about a sexual preference, a preference based on gender. And that is a bias. That is also a prejudice. That is sexism. So only 16% of women, a minority of a minority, actually have student loan debt. 8% of women have postgraduate debt. 92% of women don't have debt from postgraduate student debt. They don't have it. So who are we helping by wiping out this debt, this college loan? Who are we helping? Women overwhelmingly don't need the help. They're doing fine. They're doing better than average, overwhelmingly better than average in removing the debt by themselves. So who are we really helping there? In fact, isn't it prejudicial and sexist for us to pick women over men? Because according to the numbers, men have more debt than women do. So we should be picking men. But I'm not sure that's exactly what the progressives are trying to get across here. That's not the message they're trying to put out. And it's economic justice. Again, that brings us back to, why is it my fault or my obligation to pay off the actions of someone else? If you went to school to become a doctor and you're working as the fry guy at McDonald's, why is that my debt? If you went to school to become an engineer and you're just not good at it, and you're working as a janitor, why do I have to pay off your debt? If you went to school to be a gender studies teacher and you're just not good at it, or there aren't any positions there, why do I have to pay off your debt? Let me ask you, are you going to pay off my mortgage just because I exist? Just because I'm black and Hispanic? Are you going to pay off my mortgage? You'd say, well, that's not your responsibility. And I say back to you, why is it my responsibility for your college? You can live without getting that college education. You can live without having that college debt. You can live and thrive and improve America without taking on that debt. So why is it my requirement? Because it sounds good. Because everyone wants something free. Is that what the answer is? Is that what we're really talking about? Is we want to see who can get the most free stuff? And we're voting for people based on who's going to get us the most free stuff? They're buying your vote. And they're buying your vote pretty cheap. Now, mind you, I'm not saying that it's not necessary. I know some great women like Lacey Kestiger, great woman who stood up for herself, has strength, and is an example of how well some people can do when they apply themselves to their education and to their life. She's a great example. And Lacey would tell you, while she would enjoy having someone wipe out her debt, she doesn't need them to do that because she's good enough to take care of it on her own. And I know there's people who say, well, we could do so much if we could just get rid of that debt. Let me ask you, are we going to get rid of the debt so that we can pay for school resource officers to help protect our schools, to make sure that mass shootings are less likely going into the future? Are we going to use that to pay off the national debt? Are we going to use that money to feed the poor or to make houses for the homeless? Or are we just going to spend that on the next progressive idea? Are we already spending that money right now? As our government goes almost to $31 trillion in debt, is that really going to help America? Is it more important than having an electrician who can actually turn on the lights? Is it more important than having a machinist who's going to build the tools that'll fix our roads and bridges? Over and over again, I ask myself the question, do we need more people like Quentin Merritt in America? Or do we need more people like Lacey Kestiger? And I'm not talking about male versus female. I don't care about that. And I'm not talking about white versus black. Again, I don't care about that. What I'm talking about is we have a student who's willing to work hard and to earn everything they get on their own, or someone who wants to tell you that they are entitled to everything that they want because they feel like they're entitled to it. And they feel like you should give them the things that they want and that you should praise them because they have a feeling. Which one do you want to invest in? Because let's be honest, if we are going to wipe out student debt, we're making an investment. And I'm asking you, is this the best investment America can do? Is it really the best thing that we could spend our money on? I don't think so. But I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. What do you think? Do you think it's more important to wipe out the debt of a small percentage of our students? Or is it more important to focus on building America and making it stronger? Which one would you choose?